Ready to go? Okay.
Go.
You guys, some of you may or may not remember me. If you do, that's great. If you don't, then I won't hold it personally. But I had a chance, the privilege to come and talk to you guys a little while ago. And I recognized almost everyone's face. It was at the retreat.
It was at Tim's house.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. You gave me the little tour. You had a cool bar area. Oh, man, awesome place. So I had a chance to talk to you about that, and that was kind of a general kind of growth gears, fireside chat kind of, because literally was at the fireside. And that was kind of a macro, hey, here's some elements that can help you. You know, I always talk about companies that I work with tend to grow in events, some big event. You get a big new customer, you open a plant, you get add new sales force, get new capital, whatever events. But people go, boy, I hope the next event comes, but I don't know how to plan for that next event as much as I wish I could. So that's kind of what growth gears is, more of a systematic approach to growth. So I could talk a little bit about that today. This is a little bit different because I didn't want to come back and do the same thing. But I do, just so you guys know a little background on me, if you probably don't recall, but I work for Chief Outsiders, I'll talk about that later. But we're very connected with Tech and Vistage. In fact, we own the privilege of having the most members in Vistage tech groups of any company in the country. We have 26 people in tech groups around the country, tech Vistage groups around the country. We have 70 of us around the country. All of us are CMOs that, in mostly bigger companies, for at least 2 companies. So we're all kind of 30 years in. We don't call ourselves consultants, but we work exclusively with small to mid-sized companies, and so that's why we partner really well with Vistage. I think I'm probably up to 40 workshops. We've done collectively as a group probably 200, 300 workshops for Vistage members on a whole variety of different topics. And we've done 150 engagements with Vistage firms. And we have the privilege.
I was going to say one of those is.
We have the privilege of working with Enerquip and Genie right now, with one of our guys, Mark Corona, who lives. It's about 120 miles up the road between here and Minneapolis, in Wisconsin. So we have people. Our people are all over the place. We've got a bunch of people in Wisconsin. We got 5 in Chicago, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of a little background on us, just so you get a sense of us. My background is I've worked in a lot of big companies. I was chief marketing officer at a $10 billion company, had a global for that company, but I've also started 2 companies. So I've done big and small. And now I work with Chief Outsiders. I'm one of the managing partners doing this stuff because, frankly, I enjoy it way more. I don't care about the pay. I take a pay cut. I love helping small to mid-sized companies grow. And so taking some best practices and some learning and bringing it to you guys to help you grow is really what I love doing. So that's why I do this stuff. So today, what we wanted to do is we have titled this Growth Strategies in Disruptive Times because 2019 could be a bit disruptive in some industries. So we're going to talk a little bit about this, but I'm going to talk about a couple of strategies and then I'm going to have you guys pick where you want to focus because we don't have tons of time, but I want to make this custom to what you guys find most important, interesting. I'll go through all of it in case you go, ooh, I want to talk more about that later, then I'm happy to hop on a call and talk to you more about it. But I'd like to focus on 1 or 2 areas where you guys find most important relevant. Does that sound like a good plan?
Yeah.
So do we have, just so I know time-wise, because we were talking about an hour and a half, do we still have an hour and a half? Or?
Hour and a half, hour 45 minutes.
Okay.
If we could be done around 1:30, 1:45, that would be great.
Okay, good. So let's go ahead and kick it in gear. I know you guys are eating, but hopefully this isn't the dead time of the day. I have a bit of energy, so, and you guys are close enough that I could come and smack you on the shoulder or throw an eraser. They don't have those anymore. But what I wanted to do is talk about kind of what lies ahead. Also talk about, we've done over 600 engagements with small to mid-sized companies since we started 10 years ago. And we've got a whole bunch of strategies that help work in disruptive times. So we're going to share some of those with you, and some tools that you can use tomorrow, frankly, in your company. Take them back tomorrow. I brought out 5 for you guys to kind of pick from and look at and talk about. And so we're going to dig deeper in 1, maybe 2 of those, depending on how much time we have. And then you can take these away, and if you want, we can come and do a workshop at your company too. We do that all the time also. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So the one thing I always say, it's one thing to know about the economic trends. Hey, I got headwind, I got tailwind next year. But it's another thing to know what to do about it. And what happens is, a lot of people react. Oh crap, the market's going down, I better cut. Or, oh, I got tailwind, I'm gonna wait, and they react to it, instead of understanding it and planning for it. And there's a whole bunch of different elements that you understand and plan for. But a key part is to become more market focused and put together a plan for 19 and beyond. So that's kind of the crux of the topic there. Is that making sense? No? So last time I talked about this notion of growth gears, and I just want to highlight this really quick because then I'm going to talk about a couple of areas. But this is the systematic approach to growth that we use. It's really about insights, which is knowing the marketplace, customers, companies, segment, etc. That develops your strategy. A lot of times people want to start here. And they say, hey, can you do a strategy session at our company next week? We got a full day offsite, and I will humbly say, what kind of insights do you have? Well, let's just get in the room and start talking it out. No, I can't do that. You have to have the right insights to drive the strategy. Otherwise, you're doing a strategy that you don't know if it's accurate or not. So insights lead to the strategy leads to execution, and then your sales force, if you have one, or however you go to market, takes care of the execution and management of customers. So this is the process. We do have a book on this. I brought two because I hate carrying books around. But I'll leave these two. And if anybody wants one, just give me your card. We'll send 1 or 2 or 4 to your company, however many you need. It's a really good approach. You can kind of gauge if you like it or not as you watch today. But it's a really good approach to how do we put a plan in place? And I know the speaker before was talking about digital, and digital is a piece. Digital is here. And here's what we say about websites. This is my favorite term about a website. A lot of people just get in and start doing websites. Hey, let's get in, let's modify our website, let's improve it, yeah. Then you say, well, where do we start? And then you have debates on what color it should be, how many buttons I should put on. Should the button be in the upper corner or the lower corner? You know what I say? I don't care. What your website is the best personification of your best salesperson. And that's what it should look like to your customers when they come in. So you don't want it to be a catalog where it comes in, look at all the stuff we got, you want to buy it, you want to buy it? I mean, if your best salesperson did that, would that work at your customers? Not that well. They come in, they start asking questions, they have insights, and that's what you want your website to be. So a big part of that is understanding this, so you put together a strategy, so when you get to the website, you know what goes in there. We want to start here, and we want to go through this process. And this customer comes in, we're taking them through this process. This customer persona comes in, we're taking them through this process. And all of a sudden you go, hey, we got a strategy for our website. So your web designer firm, or the woman was talking about the 2-day offsite, have the strategy before you go to the 2-day offsite. Because what you're going to do is come up with a whole bunch of stuff, and you're going to put it into your website, but it may not be the right flow, it may not be as productive as you want it to be. So understanding this stuff is critical to this stuff. Is that resonating with some people? Okay. So, I do have some books if you want some. We'll talk about that after. But let me talk about, here are the 5 areas. So I brought in 5 strategies. I said these are ones that we talk about all the time with customers. These aren't the biggest pain points. I actually have a separate workshop on the biggest pain points from Vistage members, which the biggest one is I'm stuck. My business was growing, now it's kind of plateaued a little bit. The way I got the growth there is probably not the way I'm going to get the next growth. That's the biggest concern for Vistage members. But this is more of 5 growth strategies for disruptive times. So what I want to do is spend just a couple seconds here and then get your guys' thoughts on which one you go, ooh, I wanted that one. And it may not be universal, we may have to kind of vote, but I do want your guys' input on what you think is the most important here. The first one is tracking the marketplace changes. Seeing into the future and knowing what's going to happen in your market, and importantly in your customer's market, so you can beat competition to growth. So that's one area. And so I'm going to go through all these and then, so just think in the back of your mind, ooh, I want that one, or I don't want that one. The second one is clarifying competition. In order to grow, especially if it's disruptive, you're either going to have to take share from competition, avoid them, or attack them. So understanding that helps you more Understanding your customer better helps you more in disruptive times. So that's the second one. Third one is navigating new terrain. I want to go into an adjacent market or a new market. How do I do that? What's entailed there? I hear a lot of CEOs go, "Oh, I want to go over there because it can't be nearly as competitive as the market I'm in right now." Wait a minute, don't go so fast, because frankly, every market's competitive. So which ones? How do I know if I should go into which markets, etc. Next one, recovering margins. Am I leaving money on the table? Do I know how to do pricing strategically? And when should I take pricing? And how do I take pricing to beat competitors? And then the last one is eliminating random acts of sales and marketing. And that's what we call, the try harder strategy. Hey, I got to grow next year. Hey, Salesforce, I want you doing everything you're doing this year except 20% more. Just go try harder with no strategy. As opposed to saying, stop going there, go the same amount there, and go twice as much there. And by the way, here's all the tools that are going to make you more successful in that area. That's where you eliminate that random mix of sales. And the same thing with marketing. Don't just do, digital's important, so I'm going to do all digital. No, don't do that. Stop doing a bunch of stuff. You don't need a Twitter, a Facebook, a YouTube. You don't need all that stuff. You probably need one, probably. And then figuring out which one you need and which two you don't need will help you focus and really do a good job on the one you need. So that's eliminating the random acts of marketing. So now, as you go through this, what do you guys think? Which ones do you want to talk more about today? And we can talk more about some of the other ones in the future, but for today, which ones do you want to talk about?
So just go down the line, which number do you like? Jim?
You can tell me one or two. First priority, second would be great.
5 intrigues me.
That's not working. Okay, great. Okay, 5 intrigues you. What else, Jeannie? Was there another one?
Let someone else pick. I don't know if anyone else wants
You pick 2.
I pick 5.
I'll go 4 and 5.
4 and 5?
3 and 4.
3 and 4.
4 and 5.
1 and 3.
2 and 4.
Uh-oh.
2 and 4.
Is that kind of it? Almost it? Pretty much it? Done? Okay, so let's start here and let's see where we go. I am going to whip through these other areas just so you guys get a sense of that and you go, ooh, I like that. Let's talk more. Then we can talk further. But I'll spend more time here, and then I guess 5 would be the next area. So does that make sense? Okay, we're off. So first, let me just talk a little bit about marketplace challenges. Really, when we talk about this, it's really important to understand your segment and where are the best segments in your business to grow. And whether you're, I know, Pat, we talked earlier, you're a consumer products business, but a lot of other people are more B2B. It doesn't matter, the way we talk about this. It's all about segmenting the marketplace. I've done a lot of segmentation as a CPG guy, and then I've done a lot of segmentation as a B2B guy. It's really important to do segmentation. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But what are the trends for your members' industry segments? So as you talk about it, you're in the shoe business. What's the shoe business doing? But importantly, who's buying shoes? And where's that? Is it athletic? Is it work? Is it da-da-da-da-da? And like if we're in other businesses, and it's like important to know what the trends are for your industry, but it's really important to know who your customers' industries are in. Like I did this analysis for a company that makes injected molded polyurethane. And they say, our business is going to grow 3% next year. Okay, great. Let's dissect that one further. They're in agriculture over here, which is declining at 14%. They're in exercise equipment, which is increasing 25%. They're in automotive, which was going up 14%. They're in heavy industrial, which was flat. And so their businesses were all over the place, and they didn't look at it that way. They didn't look at, how do I grow my business next year? Do I have tailwind? They were going, we got 2% tailwind. It's like, no, you don't. You got 15% headwind here, and you got 20% tailwind here. Take all the headwind from here, put it into tailwind, and you're going to grow. Even if you moved a little effort over there, that's 1 or 2 or 3% of the bottom line. Boom, like that. And they're going, oh, okay, I didn't think about it that way. But that's the way I'm kind of asking you guys to think about it, and we'll get into that a little bit more. And then, do you guys get information. You guys know ITR, the Bolio brothers? You guys have seen those guys?
They're speaking to us at our April convention
Okay.
down in Milwaukee.
And we have a strategic partnership with the Bolio brothers, ITR, because they do a great job at economics, but they're not sure how to translate it into strategy. Because, you know, you go to one of their, and I've had the privilege, I guess, to go to their full day talking to economists for like 12 hours is like, whew, makes your brain explode. But they have great information, but then they say, what do I do with it? For you guys, you look at it, you go, wow, that was awesome. How do I take that and turn that into a strategy? So I'm going to talk a little bit about it, but it's critical to get some information. You don't have to get it from ITR. You know, they're like, I think it's about $1,200 to get their information, and then they can drill it down a lot more than that. But it's important to get some information, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. You can get it from industry associations and such. But to understand your industry and then your customers, all of that industry and trends is critical. So, are you guys familiar with this? Have you seen this kind of trend before? So these are the 4 trends that they call growth.
It's right on ITR, yep.
It's right on ITR. And here is, this is building too slowly. Here we go. This is their January forecast for the top 10 industries. I didn't go way deeper than that. But the key, I think, observation is, if you went back like 6 months, all of this was like right here. And it's kind of migrating a little bit, and you get some of them are past the tipping point as they've gone into see slower growth.
So
Now-
that yellow is still growing,
Correct.
but at a slower rate.
Correct. This is the 0. So this is growing fast and accelerating. This is growing at a lesser rate. And it could have a soft landing, or it could have a hard landing. That's kind of TBD, but I mean, they predict and project it. But I think the key is, and that's one of the reasons why we talked about this, this is a bit of a disruptive time frame. Anytime you kind of tip here, or you're tipping here, that's where the marketplace gets really disruptive. And that's frankly where you guys can take advantage, because trust me, I talk to hundreds and hundreds of CEOs a year. Most people don't look at this stuff. They don't. So if you guys are good at it, you're going to be way better than your competitors at it. So, you know, you guys can kind of take a look at some of these things. Now, obviously, you want to drill a little deeper than this. This is kind of, you know, 20,000, 30,000 foot level. But you can see where things are happening. That's interesting. You go, what do I do now? Okay, fine. I'm right here, or I'm here, or I'm here. Okay, what does that mean? So here's what we've done, and this is a very simplistic approach, but this starts to get to, once you're in one of those segments, what strategies should you be thinking of? Yes.
So I am recording this. Are we going to get a hard copy of this
Sure.
too? Or?
Well, a hard copy, I can send you electronic,
Okay,
and you can send it out to everybody.
good, thank you.
But here are the A, B, C, D. Here's some strategies to think about. So most of you guys are going to be in B and C right now, I'm thinking. So for example, B, when you get here, doing an analysis on your customer's profitability is really important. Whether it goes back to A or whether you go to C next, that's a really key piece, because this is where you take pricing. People go, no, I take pricing when my costs go up. No, you don't. You can, but we're going to get into that in a few minutes. You want to take it here, because this is where you have the most opportunity to take pricing. A lot of people try to take it here, where it gets real competitive, and then all of a sudden you're in a war with your competition. Get off the cycle. I'm skipping ahead to some of what I'm going to say here, but get off the cycle of my costs went up 6%. You tell your customers my costs went up 6%. All of your competitors tell your customer you went up 6%. You know what price increase you get? 6%. You never get 7%, because they're going to go, look, I know you only went up 6%. Get off that cycle and talk about value with pricing. But here's a couple things. I'm not going to spend much time on this, but there's a whole bunch of looking at adjacent markets. All that stuff is like critical here, because that's when you're growing. When you get to here, you start, don't be dismissive, because a lot of times people go, oh, it's going to come back up, it's going to come back up, and then by the time it gets down to here, you know, we see a lot of people putting capital in here. I can tell you 10 experiences I've had where, you know, it was growing, we put in extra capacity in the plant, now we're going like this and trying to, you know, fill that plant capacity, and so what happens is they take price concessions. Now you got a spiral. Now you got a spiral going. So here, don't be dismissive, understand that. Here, hire temporary people. Drive that growth like crazy. Here, cautious with expansion plans, strategically put in think about where your cuts are gonna be. Where are we gonna cut? Don't wait till it happens and go, oh my gosh, we gotta cut this month or this week. If you do it here, you go, what would we cut? If our business declines, and maybe it's a segment, what's the first thing we could cut? Do it now. So this is, again, being proactive instead of reactive. You'll be able to make way better decisions, and you'll have more options because you can think of things in the future. So just a couple of pieces here, but these trends can really and should really drive strategy as you look ahead. You say, hey, what's ahead? What's ahead for the next 6 months or a year? Okay, what is the indicated action for my strategy in the next year because of this? Don't wait till it happens and then go, oh shoot, now I gotta react. Is that resonating, making sense with people? Okay, here's a key piece. How do you use the tools? There's just one page in each one of these, summarizing it. So how do you measure? What phase are you in? What phase are your customers in? What's in the next 6 months? If you went from this phase to this phase, what strategy should you take? So that's it on that first one. That kind of buzzed through that pretty quick. But that was that first piece, okay? Is that enough detail? I think I'm on pretty decent timing there. Is that too fast?
Good.
Okay. And if you guys want to go through that in more detail, I just put a couple of those strategies in. If you say, hey, here's my business, I think we're in B, what should we be doing? Or we've tilted, now we're in C. What should we be thinking about in the next 6 months? Happy to take a call and just talk to you guys about it. And just say, think about this, this, and this. And talk through it, and then you guys can start planning that for your business.
It was good timing because they're going to get about 2 hours of Bolio in April, so he's going to go through that in somewhat more detail.
And what you can do too is, if you want, they can actually put together predictors for you. We do this with our company. We subscribe to this, and actually we subscribe to all of them. So if you did work with us, you can get this data. I just can't hand you the whole thing. I can get the data and talk to you about it. I can't hand you the whole data. But we get predictive for our company. So what we do is we track this for 4 years historical, and then we start looking at what are the drivers, and then we've actually found what the key predictors are for our business, which is there's CEO confidence, there's all these measures that we have that we can actually, we're right now about here, we can actually predict like 6 months out with pretty good accuracy for what's coming up. And then that allows us to go, oh, okay, that's gonna happen, we better do this differently for our business. So you could do that if you that starts getting pretty technical. Big companies do that all the time. When I was in big companies, we do this all the time. It gets pretty complicated, but do something in this area. Do some planning in this area. The second one was competition. And I talked to a lot of CEOs that go, competition really isn't, there's no direct competition. It's hard to really measure who our competitors are. And I go, well, if that's the case, do you position your company? Oh yeah, well you can't position your company if you don't know your competition, because positioning is us relative to somebody else. So you have to understand who the somebody else is. And even if, I've worked with companies that are, 2% market share and most of their competitors are 2%, so it's a lot of little guys competing, just pick 5, and I'll talk about this, pick a couple and get started. So first, how much do you know about your competition? Is sales the main source of your competitive information? I humbly submit to you guys, if it is, it's not good enough. Because sales just has a different lens, they're taking stuff through. And they wouldn't ask things like, do we have a good sales force? They wouldn't ask, how's our quality versus this competitor? What does this competitor do better than us? Salespeople just wouldn't normally do that kind of stuff. They aren't used to doing that kind of stuff. So, how well you know customers? If you've done an independent voice of customer, I highly recommend you do one of these every couple of years, voice of customer. And I say independent here because, again, it's good to have somebody else talking to them, not having somebody in your company. You can do it, but I humbly submit somebody else does it too. Because what you find out is how you're better than competitors, how competitors are better than you. And you drill down, and then that allows you to put together a better strategy. Because you really know what your value prop is. Jeannie, as Mark was doing, he and I were talking about the value proposition redefinement that he did with Enerquip. But it's really important to talk to people. And what I do is I talk to people who love you, people who like you, people who have fired you, and people who are aware of you but haven't bought from you. And if you do all those, now you have a real good sense of what the market thinks about you and what you do well relative to a bunch of competition. So that's kind of competitive starting piece. I always say take the top 5, where are you better, et cetera. I kind of talked about that. Determine and track a bunch of stuff specifically with them. I love putting this together. This is a competitive chart for a Vistage member in Chicago. Oh no, this one's the one in Milwaukee. Where I always say take your top 5 competitors. This one we did 4. You either attack, defend, or avoid your top competitors. And you don't have to make this a central thrust of your organization, but it's important. In this particular case, these guys were the number 4 player in most of the market, so they had bigger competitors. So it's important to know what's going on. So for example, in one of their key segments, they had better quality than their competitors did. But everybody said we've got good quality, and so it was invisible in the marketplace. You know, everyone said, hey, we have good quality, so do we, so do we. Oh, great, great, great. And it became invisible in the marketplace. So I said, you guys have to take credit for what you're doing well in the marketplace already. So we said, let's put a lifetime warranty on these, lifetime on this product, which they make restaurant equipment, back of house restaurant equipment. So they were already pretty much lifetime guarantee anyway. And everybody else was 2-year warranty. We got 2-year warranty, okay, great, so do we. We have good quality. Well, if you go out and say, we have better quality, and we're gonna put our money where our mouth is, we have lifetime on this. Kind of blew up the marketplace. Competitors go, I don't know what to do with that. And when you talk to new customers, you say, we have better quality, let us prove it. Look, lifetime, them, 2 years. Which would you rather have? I mean, you go, oh, okay, that's a competitive strategy against one of your key competitors. So that's an attack strategy. How do we get business from them? And you know what? We went to all their current customers, and they didn't have good quality. So all their customers were already thinking, this quality is not great, the wheels were falling off, the handles. And so we went in and said, look, we got a bunch of those guys to switch over. That was a growth strategy, right away. Happened right away. They go, oh, yeah, we'll source you in. And then we became dual sourced with those guys. And over time, they went down and we went up. So you can see how, I'm not going to go through each one of these, but you can see how this works. Here's one that we said, they were trying to get into healthcare. Frankly, there was a much better healthcare company. We said, you know what? We're not going to battle it out in 25 markets. We're leaving healthcare. We're just going to avoid it. Don't do it. Focus somewhere else. And so we just avoided them because frankly, they were better than we were. They were. And it was hard to kind of, you know, it's a epiphany when your company starts saying that, you know, they're better than us in this and this and this way. You know, it would take a lot of resources to compete with them. Let's go after these guys. Let's avoid these guys in that whole segment. Let's just not go after medical. It's been growing, yeah, I know, but we won't win. And what happens is we'll take price cuts and we'll put all this engineering time and our strategy will get all convoluted and cloudy and not focused. And 2 years from now, would that be a good strategy or a good approach or not? You know, we said, no, it's not. Don't do it. Go after where we can win. Go after where we can win. So that's the way to think about competitors. Is that kind of resonating? I've seen some people kind of